And welcome to Let's Talk Open Access Publishing, what you need to know. Hopefully what I want to be able to do today is just to share some information with you, answer questions, and kind of go from there. Could you give me a nod if you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so today I'm going to touch on what is open access, discovery tools, some predatory journal issues, the Argo Scholar Commons, and kind of moving forward. So what is open access is basically free online, unrestricted access to scientific and scholarly research. It is different from open education or OER resources because this focuses on your scholarly work. Usually it's journal articles, it can be conference papers, it can be videos, it can be a lot of different types of materials. Generally speaking, though, the focus is usually on articles and journals. And then preprints and accepted manuscripts. And we'll talk about that in the context of institutional repositories. So there are 5 basic types of open access. There's more than 5, but these are the major ones. Gold, which you might be familiar with, that's where you do pay an article processing charge, but the article essentially is considered open access, and that would be your publishers that are hosting those, like Elsevier and Sage. Hybrid is an open access journal, but they do have an article processing fee. And that makes the journal articles open access. Diamond is a bit different. Diamond is a journal that is open access and there's no APC charge. Bronze is freely available to read. Sometimes you will find that the journal, every month they allow a couple of their articles to be freely accessible, or sometimes a thematic resource like during COVID, JAMA would allow themselves, they had a series of free articles. And then there's green, and I talk about green a lot because we have an institutional repository, and that's where you as an author can submit preprints, postprints, and usually accepted manuscripts, which most publishers allow into the institutional repository. By doing so, it makes that resource available to everyone globally, as opposed to only those who have a subscription to a particular journal. So there are a couple different roads. The golden road, which I mentioned, you're submitting to an open access journal. Usually it can be an Elsevier or major publisher. It's just that that particular journal has that ability to do open access. They're peer reviewed and you pay an article processing fee. And then of course it's immediate open access via the publisher. Green is different because that is usually a preprint or an accepted manuscript. It's peer reviewed, and then you're self-archiving in a manner of speaking. You're putting it in our online repository, which makes it immediately available to everyone. The hybrid is what you see here in white, and again, that's submitting to an open access journal, but you're definitely paying a fee. And it is immediately available. All of these open access articles will have what they call Creative Commons licenses. You may or may not be familiar with them. They vary in their degree of openness. The most open is what we call a CC BY. That's where you're allowed to reuse it, remix it, and so on. The most restrictive, I should say, is a CC BY NC, which means it cannot be used for commercial purposes, and ND, no derivatives. You can never change any of that content at all. These will vary in how you see them. Most journals, I believe, are CC BY or CC BY share alike. And if you ever want to learn more about Creative Commons and their licenses, we can meet and discuss that. So discovery tools. There are a lot of resources that you can use when you're looking for open access articles, but there are some that are going to really give you a lot more information than others, and you may be familiar with these. There's Shipper Romeo, which analyzes publisher open access policies. The DOAJ is a directory of open access journals, and that would include journals that are green as well as gold. Wikipedia has an open access journal listing. And then there are publishers, many of the publishers now that have open access journals will list them, in their own list. I'm going to go to Sherpa Romeo and demonstrate for you. So it's pretty straightforward. You can throw a journal title in here and it will bring it up. This is called Force. This particular journal happens to be open access, and you will see here where it gives the information about the publisher policy. Since this is an open access, it can go on any website. So it would live in the journal, of course, but you could put the actual published copy in a repository. They have accepted version and submitted versions are also available to go into repositories, different types of repositories. So this is pretty straightforward because it's an open access journal. If I were to look at something like Science, which we all know is a major science journal, their policy is going to be quite different. Their public version is never admitted, never permitted to be posted. An accepted manuscript can go into an institutional repository, like here at the university or on the author's homepage. And then they have kind of a breakout of accepted versions and submitted versions that can go a number of places. That's especially important because if you have certain types of funding, one of the things that you have to do is put it in a repository. That may be us, that may be a designated repository or designated location. Or you might be doing something with a preprint where you put this into a named repository. There's medX, Chem is another one, Bio. And those preprint repositories, a lot of times a preprint will live in there until it gets published, and then the preprint wouldn't be as viable. Let's see. So that's Sherpa Romeo. They do have a lot of information. Oh, the one thing I didn't show you is that you can also go in here and search on a publisher. So if I do API, I think I'm putting this in here wrong. Yep. Let's go back. So if I go to MDPI, it's a publisher out of Switzerland. What I can see, now they are an open access publisher. I could go in here and I could look at all the different types of publications that are in here alphabetically that they put out. When you click on any of these, it will take you directly into the link that gives you the information on their open access status. So it's a good place to go, when you're looking for open access and you're trying to determine, that publishers' policies or what the journals look like. On the other hand, if you're looking for journals, the best place to go is DOAJ. And the directory of open access journals has every field you can think of, thousands, but a lot of different resources. So here, if I say I wanted articles, I'll just do forestry. I'm looking for journals that open access journals that have forestry. You see, I got 132 indexed journals. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is this is international, so you will have a fair amount of, that's other languages. So the two things, they have nice limits over here on the left. The two things I'm going to pick on is I want the journals without an article processing charges. And I want to be able to submit in English. And so here you'll start seeing these on this side, a variety of different journals. Some come from these are open access journals. So some come from educational institutions or institutes, and vary. So if I go to, for instance, Journal of Bioresource Management, you'll see their information here. It began publishing in 2014. This is their Creative Commons license, no publication fees. What's nice about this, it will take you directly to the journal for their aim and scope, their instructions for authors, editorial board, and blind review information. Tells you to expect an average of 8 weeks from submission to publication. They have the author, of course, retains unrestricted copyright and publishing rights, and that's the whole point, behind part of open access. And then the publisher is Wright State University in this case, an institution in Pakistan. You'll see keywords, and sometimes this can be a little helpful if you were doing something with biological sciences. It'll take you back out and it will again look for these particular resources. Let's see. You'll see the information is going to be, similar in nature. Now, this particular journal does have an APC charge up to $4,000, which is a lot. It's a lot of money. But you can see it's the publisher is Oxford University Press. And it's with the National Academy of Sciences. So that kind of explains that upwards of 4,000. They show that their journals, they began publishing this particular one in 2022. It has a CC BY or CC BY NCND, and that just means the addition of no commercial and no derivatives. And again, these links will take you straight out, which is really nice. You don't have to go looking for that information. They're expected an average of 17 weeks from submission to publication. It also is archived in Portico. So sometimes they will tell you where you can archive or where you would find the archive of the articles in different repositories. The other way, go back to, I'll just go back here so that I can go here. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're searching this like any other typical database, to play around with your terminology. If I picked on, for instance, American history, I get 50 journals. If I instead did studies, you'll see that I have 57, not a huge quantity, but just there can be some subtleties that you want to be aware of, just in case there's other terminology that you can use to search a database. It's typical of a typical database. Different topics are under different subjects. The other two links that I have here, Wikipedia is just a list of journals by subject area. And then you can go into others. Sometimes the publishers, this is an example of Project Muse, will have lists of the journals that they have with open access. This, in their case, they also have open access books that are on Muse. This is in the humanities and social sciences. There is some hard science in here too. So these two, Sherpa Romeo and Directory of Open Access Journals, are really the two that you would want to focus on to utilize as you search for articles. So let's talk a moment about predatory journals and publishers, because this is an issue, especially in relation to open access. They kind of fall into three categories: prolific publishers, people who they're primarily in the sciences. Unfortunately, they have APC models. They have multiple journals, a lot of new journals, and a lot of times they have a very aggressive submission emails where we want you to publish with us for a fee. There's individual titles that you'll find of journals, again, APC models. They tend to have easy acceptance. They accept a lot of rejected papers. They're often broad and out of scope. It might be a history journal that has science articles. They retain your copyright, though, and that's the dangerous part of publishing with a predatory journal. They have the rights to your work, and the titles tend to sound scholarly. Hijacking is a little bit different. That is an issue where a journal title is hijacked with a counterfeit journal and fake websites. I can give you an example. This is Tierärztliche Praxis. This is a German journal that I changed to English so I can read it. It's veterinary practice for large animals and livestock, as you can see, livestock. The hijack journal, well, the website doesn't look as polished, but you see it's the same title. And you'll see information here. This is really a dead giveaway when a journal has a Gmail account. Real journals don't have Gmail's account. But as you can see, they call it a multidisciplinary journal that covers every subject you can absolutely think of. Okay, so it's something to watch out for. If something seems at all askew, it's definitely worth your really giving it a good once over. Many times people contact us at the library and ask us if we have an awareness of that particular journal or publisher. There are a couple of links that I can mention. Think, Check, Submit is a real good just approach to when you're publishing. What they have is a checklist, and they do this for both books and journals, to just think about different aspects of the journal, and then check, reference lists, how discoverable they are, how easily identified can, publishers be contacted in a sensible way. Okay. Of course, there's the APC, the fee charges. If fees are very low or very high, a lot of times you need to scrutinize that. So a very good way to work through that. There is a list called Beall's List. And in this particular site, you can go to an update. Now, Beall's List lists predatory journals and publishers. You do have to use your own judgment, because there are some on here that have been, some claim aren't predatory. But either way, you really need to scrutinize who you're looking at, especially if it's open access with an APC charge. Keep in mind, Web of Science and PubMed, they have journal lists. A lot of times it's good to look to see if they're indexing that particular journal. They're not always pure, but for the most part they are. And then there's a journal evaluation tool that you can use. This comes from Loyola Marymount University. And what it does, it gives you some criteria for good, fair, and poor. And it gives you a worksheet that you can kind of work through. And you can actually do this pretty quickly, because a lot of that information is going to be readily available. Even if it's a predatory journal, if you look enough, you can see things that stick out. If you have questions about predatory journals or ever want to discuss that more, you can always contact me, and be happy to talk to you about it. So the one thing I want to mention and bring attention to is our institutional repository, which is the Argo Scholar Commons. We recently went through, changed to a new vendor, so it is really changed in its look and what you can do in it. Our goal is to host the scholarship of the university, so that includes faculty, staff, and students. Our services include with the Scholar Commons faculty profiles, submissions of your work, a guide to policy. You can self-edit. We take a wide range of formats. So we take in articles, books, book chapters, presentations, video podcasts, and so on. And of course, you can upload your own scholarship. So this is an example, but I'm going to go out to the Commons itself. So this is what it looks like. There are lots of different links on the front page. We highlight some of our researchers here, some of the featured collections at the university, and then some statistic information at the bottom of the page. You can access this a couple different ways. You could go directly to scholarship people, academic units, and research collections, or you can search for individuals. I'm going to search for Dr. Gilliam, who's one of our heavy users. You might have seen him in my slides. So this is Dr. Gilliam. What you're able to do as faculty, you can create your presence on the site with a profile that includes information like your education, honors, organizational affiliations. And then most importantly, there's another tab that shows your scholarship. And your scholarship includes, again, journal articles. It could be book chapters. Some of this may be open access. Some of it is not. And one of the things that you'll see on these pages is you will see altmetrics statistics over here in badges. So for instance, in this case, this has been blogged by a site, tweeted 3 times, it's on Facebook. This goes into more details. If you're interested in altmetrics, you can also see this has had 2 citations, that particular article. The other thing that you can see in here, let's see. Go here. You can go by academic unit, and you can go into a particular school and look at, again, a faculty member. Now, in this case, he has additional tab for grants. He's had some grants here, and those are listed. We work with the research of the Office of Academic Research and Engagement, and to bring in grant information. So the reason that I bring this up is that our repository is a place for you to put a copy of your work that is permanent and available to everyone. There are other repositories which I've mentioned. These are just a few of those that some people choose to put their works in, whether they're preprints or accepted manuscripts. We prefer, of course, you put it in our repository. So moving forward, please be willing to, I hope that you're willing and to help us, help you identify open access journals, help you to recognize predatory publishers, and to set up your Argo Scholarly Commons profile. Thank you. So what questions do you have for me?